Welcome to InCabin from the creators of AutoSense. InCabin connects the global community of automotive interior specialists working on in-cabin safety, comfort, and productivity solutions through industry-leading events and knowledge sharing. We are pleased to be speaking today with Piotr Mroz, Technical Sales Manager with emotion3D. And Piotr, welcome to InCabin. Good to see you, friend.
Hi, Carl. Nice being here.
So, Piotr, what trends do you see right now in the industry that are evolving, and what do you expect to see more of in the future? And then, further to that, with those trends, what is Emotion 3D focused on right now?
I think to answer honestly this question, we need to take also a little bit of past into account. The last few years, at least until 2024, it was relatively easy for the in-cabin. The market was slowly saturating. There was the mainly the solutions focused on the typical driver monitoring systems. Eventually, the Euro NCAP came into game, GSR, but it was always about the monitoring the driver, if it's focused, if it's tired. And honestly, it makes sense. Of course, it improves safety. At some point of times, this system were consisting of a single camera with small field of view. It was always pointed at the driver's head. And when this one was in place, the industry started to think what we can do more, what kind of other features can be delivered. They were thinking, and eventually we realized, okay, we can add some user experience to it. But initially it was limited to maybe like a Face ID, which was maybe then not the most spectacular thing. We were thinking about extending field of view. If we can see something more than just a driver, maybe we can look beyond that, looking also for the passengers. So we end up at some point of time having two people, two postures, their body movements, their hands movement, and so on and so on, which became like a very strong base for building new functionalities. And it became to be a thing like an experimental phase, research projects. There were like a new features to be delivered, new types of the cameras, new position. Some outcomes of this project were like a very successful. Some of them were a little bit less. And it took actually a while to realize what is the full potential of in-cabin, what can be really delivered and what really can be achieved. And technology leaders started to showcasing this solution to OEMs at the trade shows. Euro NCAP was always like involved somewhere there, a little bit curious, beginning drafting some ideas. And long after, in 2024, there was like basically the change. The Euro NCAP started to releasing something. And me personally, I consider this year like a very interesting, especially for automotive, because many things came to their end and the new beginning started. So until this year, DMS was more like the option in Europe, and at some point of time, it became a standard. It was even like a must for the OEMs, and the simple DMS which we are talking about becomes some sort of commodity that can be taken from the shelf and easily delivered as a solution. And as it became a standard, the final consumer awareness increased. And there was basically a question, what comes next? And it somehow nicely brings us to the last year, 2024, when the new protocols for Euro NCAP 2026 was introduced. And we realized that the single camera, it's not enough anymore. And there was a question, will be enough to make like a bigger field of view camera, maybe two cameras, maybe other sensors like take into account. And we had to make like another cycles of this experiments to actually realize what is required. Then was like, what is enough? Now we're more in the phase like, what is the minimum to do to be achieved this NCAP 2026 features? And all of these activities were in parallel with the RFQs for the OEMs. And they were also looking for the answers like, how to achieve to score all of the points in Euro NCAP 26. So when it comes to think about what comes next, what will be the future, one of the stimulation for the industry is definitely this NCAP 26, and what also will bring the next Euro NCAP for 2029, where we will have again another cycle of these experiments and the research projects to similar questions. The other stimulation, which I think will come, it's more like the same time it's a challenge, would be the Asian OEMs that currently bring cars globally, especially to Europe. And they bring a lot of gadgets in it and plenty of user experience features that could potentially put small shadow on the safety. And as the market is currently very difficult and everybody is trying to fit the market needs, we as emotion3D, we are trying to be as much as flexible and be able to adapt quickly to eventually help the OEMs to deliver good quality solutions to the market.
Piotr, you mentioned things like new beginnings and what comes next. And then at the same time, trying to navigate a regulatory roadmap, but then also provide solutions for your customers, for your OEM customers. So, with all of that said, Piotr, what are some of the ambitions that Emotion 3D has for 2025 and even looking ahead beyond 2025?
For all of the past years that we are working in cabin space, we were able to be sustainable as a company, and we are planning to continuing doing so and basically getting new projects. And at the same time, what we are trying to do is to show to our clients, our OEMs, that we are in this very small group of leading companies in the in-cabin sensing world. And I think the newest NCAP, newest features that will become mandatory, shows very well who would be able to deliver the working solutions until 2026. And we as a company, we are very much transparent. And during each and every trade show or conference, even at the CES, we show our solution and their performance. And one thing which is interesting, we were able, as one of the first publicly demonstrates Euro NCAP 2026 at InCabin in Detroit last year. And I think what we did by doing so, we put some small pressure on our competition, other suppliers, which actually helped them to a little bit accelerate their development and catch up on us. And I mentioned that we wanted to be in this group of the leaders. And I think this is what actually leaders do to help others to accelerate. So
very, very well said, friend. Very well said. And with that acceleration, what categories or functionalities are the most interesting right now for OEMs? Is it safety related? Is it UX related? Or is it something else? What's your perspective, Piotr?
I think in the end, it will depend on the final consumers of the car. People who are buying cars, as of today, the trend is like we'll become having the cars like smartphones on the wheels. And instead of connecting it to USB-C for charging, you will be connecting it to fast charger to your home. But being serious, there are some people that appreciate the fact that you are having this smartphone on the wheels, you are connected, you can do plenty of things. And there is the other part that like kind of old-fashioned way of buying car when you are looking for the reliability and safety. And we as a software provider like emotion3D, we have to somehow navigate and adapt in this difficult world. And unfortunately, there is nothing more certain than a change. So we need to help support our OEMs to quickly basically react on these changes. And one thing which happens right now, we fortunately most of the OEMs are already having the software-defined vehicles platforms, and they are prepared for it, or they are currently developing it. So like the making the change, adapting, it becomes a little bit easier for all of us. And with this potential of like an inflow of Asian OEMs to Europe and globally, it will be somehow important to differentiate, maybe not only with the pricing of the vehicles. Like we can see like everybody's marketing that this vehicle is so cheap and it has so many features in it. And maybe it, as I mentioned before, it puts some shadow from the safety perspective. But when eventually will become at the face of like the end consumers of buying the vehicle, they will have to have a chance to somehow differentiate. And maybe the newest NCAP 2026 protocol, from the safety perspective, gives some chance to differentiate, because scoring full points at this one will be now very difficult. And it might become a very big differentiator for final consumers, and also to highlight like the technological gaps between the OEMs.
We're speaking today with Piotr Mroz, Technical Sales Manager of emotion3D. Piotr, always a pleasure to have you and emotion3D with us. We're looking forward to seeing your technical leadership in action in Detroit for InCabin USA 2025. That's June 10th through the 12th at the Huntington Place in downtown Detroit. Until then, Piotr, thank you for being with us today. It's good to see you again.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Carl.
For more information on emotion3D and to find out more about our upcoming events, see the links in the description or visit InCabin.com. That's InCabin.com. And for more in-depth interviews like this, subscribe to this YouTube channel or follow InCabin on LinkedIn. In Detroit, on behalf of InCabin, I'm Carl Anthony.